Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markel. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markel.
Hello and welcome back to yet another Morning Mindset podcast. I am your host, Paul Markel, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to absorb just a little bit of information. Now, today we're going to talk about desire or ability, or desire and ability. Now, I'm like most people. I have friends and business acquaintances and associates who will send me or share video clips via social media. I'm sure most of you are the same way. You have friends and associates that will say, hey, did you see this video? Did you see this video? And most of the time it's nonsense. Let's be honest with each other. Most of the time it's nonsense. It's cute cats or yawning puppies or hugging koala bears or something like that. Most of the time it's just nonsense. But recently, an acquaintance who's also a professional person sent me, or they shared a video. And this was one of those on-the-scene cell phone videos where someone was on the scene of an incident. And so rather than helping, they pulled out their phone and they recorded it, because that's what we do in 2018, right? That's what we do in our modern world. We don't, rather than help people, we pull out our phone and we stand there recording it, yelling, someone should help, or saying someone should help. And it was just a short clip, but there was a victim. A victim, I don't know if he was of an accident or a heart attack or an ailment or something, but there's a white-haired gentleman on the ground. And there are three people, younger people, surrounding this gentleman. And someone's standing there with their phone, and they're yelling, make sure the car's in park, be careful, watch out, do something, what have you. So of the person on the ground is obviously in some type of distress. The white-haired victim is in some type of distress. And maybe you've seen this video. I'm sure it's going to work its way around the internet. So we have one person who's straddling the victim and doing what appears to be attempted CPR, right? They're straddling them and they're pushing down on their chest. We have a second person who is cradling and holding the victim's head up off of the ground, head up, chin down. And then we have a third person who is slapping the victim on the face. Yes. So we have a combination of one person straddling the victim, doing what appears to be attempted chest compressions for CPR. While that's going on, another person is holding his head up off of the ground, head up, chin down. And then there's a third person slapping him, just smacking him in the face, saying, hey, wake up, or whatever. Now, I have had people who I know say, well, it's better to do something than nothing, right? I mean, I was taught in first aid class that you're always better off to attempt to do something than to do nothing. Yes. And I know many of you out there are like, well, Paul, anybody who's attempting to render aid is protected by the Good Samaritan Act and so on and so forth. And I get that. I understand all of that. And the three people who were attending to this victim, they had the desire, or at least you could see through their expressed actions, they had the desire to help, to do good. What were they missing? They were missing the ability. That's right. They had the desire, and that's great, but they didn't have the ability. They didn't have the skill. And we see that a lot in our modern world. People believe, or they mistake the fact that they have the desire to do something that they have the will to do it or they want to do it. And they say, well, I really want to do this, or I have the desire to do this. Okay. But do you actually have the physical ability, the skill, the education, the training, the knowledge to do what it is that you want to do? Because desire isn't enough. And in the situation that I just mentioned, a lot of you, I believe, if you're in my listening audience, or at least I would hope, that you are responsible, compassionate individuals, and that if you saw someone in distress or the victim of an injury or a crash or what have you, that you would have the desire to help that person. I would hope that anyone who's listening to my show would be that kind of a person. But having the desire and having the ability are not the same thing. People say, well, you should do something. Okay, you should do something. But you should do something that's actually going to help. Now, if you guys are hip CPR performers, or if you're medical personnel or EMTs or paramedics or whatever, when I described that situation, you probably cringed. Because we have someone doing chest compressions, and no, you don't straddle the person while you're doing chest compressions, but is that a horrible thing, or is it, the end of the world? No, probably not the end of the world, but of all those things that I described, which one was probably the most dangerous for the patient? The crappy chest compressions, the being slapped on the face, or having someone cradle your head, lift it up off of the ground, head up, chin down? Well, if you're a medical person, you know that in order to maintain an open airway on an unconscious patient, what you want to do is you want to tilt their head backwards, pointing their mouth and their nose high up towards the sky. You want their chin away from their chest. That opens their airway. If you do the opposite, if you push it down, it can close or restrict or limit the airway. And if you're doing CPR on someone and you're keeping the blood circulating, why are you circulating the blood? Just because blood is blood, right? No. The reason that you circulate blood is because you're circulating oxygen. That's right. All your heart and your liver and your lungs and all your body needs oxygenated blood. So when you're doing CPR, what you're doing is you're pushing that blood and you're making it keep flowing through the patient. Well, if you pick someone's head up off of the ground, push their chin down towards their chest, you're probably not doing them a whole lot of good. So in the case of, what I just described, these people all had the desire to help, but it didn't look like to me that any of them really had the ability. It is good to have the will, but you need the skill to go along with it. So I don't know where you are on your life's journey, but I hope that you take this with you. Having the desire is not enough. Many people say, well, I'm a good person, and I'm a caring person, and I'm a compassionate person. And if the time ever comes to help, then I'll do it. That's the desire part. But you can't magically will yourself the ability and the skill to do what you need. So whether it's performing first aid or what have you, it's good to have the desire, but we need to do a reality check with ourselves. We need to look in the mirror and say, okay, I have the desire to help, but do I have the ability? You need to have the skill to go along with the will. All right. That is it. That is the end of today's episode of Morning Mindset. Thank you very much for joining me. And if you order today, or probably, today or tomorrow, you will definitely have plenty of time to get a unique gift for your father or grandfather or uncle or whatever, if you have a dad in your life. If in your life you have a dad that you care about, someone is a dad, you have a dad, you are a dad, you know a dad, go to Amazon.com and pick up the book Dad Rules, Wit and Wisdom from a Dad to Whom It May Concern. Give it to your dad for Father's Day. He'll appreciate it. I am your host, Paul Markel. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markel, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.